SpotlightMediaStudios.com. Welcome to Education Unfiltered. Here is Mary Stucco.
Hello, this is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered, where we talk about all things higher ed. And today I am joined by Sara, who is an associate adjuster at Randstad. Hi, Sara, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so happy to be able to talk to you. So tell me, where do you work and what do you do there?
So right now I'm through Randstad and I work at Hanover. It's kind of like a third-party hiring company, and then I should be hired into Hanover later. Right now I'm an associate adjuster, and I'm doing inside property claims with a fast-track team out in Massachusetts. So I'm in Howell, but most of our conversations are via phone and Microsoft Teams, and, get a claim and look through the policy and see if there's coverage or not. So
you said you're doing property claims. What kind of property claims are you doing?
Right now we're doing fences, if a tree falls. It's fast track, so it's kind of like mild, small property claims. Anything that can be done and handled pretty quickly, or they don't need a field adjuster to go out. The insured will send us some photos and kind of fill us in on what's been happening. It's a lot of fences blown down, trees down. Right now we're doing a lot of ice dam claims in Michigan for ice buildup on roofs, and if they get water damage into their house. A lot of them are like sub pump failures and stuff like that.
So you're seeing a whole lot of everything. So have you ever actually been to Massachusetts before?
I have not, but I love the whole team over there. They're so great. They're the nicest.
Oh, very good. Very cool. So sounds like you get to see a lot of things, a lot of variety, a little bit of everything.
Yes, and no matter how many times you think you're like, okay, yes, I've handled 18 fence claims. I know what I'm doing. You get a claim and you're like, nope. I have a question because I don't know what is happening.
So nothing boring about your job, huh?
No, it's always something new, and there's always brand new claims every day.
Yeah. So tell me, how did you get into this industry? What made you decide to get into the insurance industry?
Yeah, so I decided to go back to school as a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and my youngest finally went off to preschool. And I decided I'd better find myself a career. So I went back to school, decided to go to Lansing because I'd already done all my testing there years before, after high school. And I had actually started going for dental hygiene and completed all my prereqs, and then it just wasn't going to make it out to Lansing to do the clinicals for the dental hygiene. So I ended up talking to an academic advisor, and I did tons and tons of testing to see, what would be a good fit for me. And I had this list of prerequisites for what I wanted in a job, and I wanted something 9 to 5. I wanted to be home with my kids. I wanted weekends home. I wanted, good benefits. And the academic advisor was like, here's this insurance classes that just started, and I was like, you know what? Yep, that checks all my boxes. So I ended up meeting my professor, great lady, Mary Stucco.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to talk to you.
You talked about how great the insurance industry is, and I signed up for the classes, and it felt like it clicked, like it was finally something that I should be doing. And that's how I wound up in the insurance industry.
So tell me, you starting out when you started going back to school, you wanted something 9 to 5. So are you pretty much working 9 to 5?
Oh, yeah. I think 8:30 to 5. And, I get the flexibility to work from home a whole bunch of days. So, a couple of times the kids have been sick, I've been able to pack up my office and take it home and be able to be a mom and be a professional at the same time. It's been great.
Yeah, I think, that's something a lot of people are looking for, that flexibility right now. So tell me, on both sides of it, how does it feel when you go into the office? So, how many days a week do you usually go into the office?
So right now I go in Monday through Wednesday in office, and I love it. It's great. It's nice to be able to like see people and have conversations. And then Thursdays and Fridays I work from home, and I also enjoy that because I get to sleep in a little, no drive time.
Yeah, that's right.
And I can get the kids out the door on the bus and then log right in.
Very good. So it's kind of the best of both worlds where you can get out and see people and have that interaction. And, sometimes it's just you need to ask those questions like in a face-to-face setting. And so it's nice to have that option. And I think a lot of the insurance companies are going to that kind of a hybrid where you're doing kind of both depending on the job and the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really, really enjoy the flexibility of it. Especially with kids, it makes it so much easier not have to like worry, this kid needs to get picked up. I have to call somebody to go pick them up from school. And, one day I had my son in the office and I left on my lunch break, went and picked him up and took him home and then logged in for the rest of the day. And my unit manager was like, oh, no, that's fine. Just log in when you get home. And
wow.
The flexibility is great.
Yeah, that's really generous. I think that's so important as a parent to be able to have that flexibility because, you can't predict when stuff's going to go down with the kids. And the fact that you have, it sounds like an employer with Hanover that is just very, accepting of that and very willing to work with you.
Oh, yeah, they've been great.
That's wonderful. Now, tell me, how did it feel going back to school? You said you've been out of school for a while and you started back up at LCC. Tell me about, how it was transitioning from being the stay-at-home mom to back into like an academic world.
Yeah, I started slow because I knew it was going to be nerve-wracking. I hadn't been to school in 10 years, so I was super nervous. So I started with just one or two simple classes to kind of ease myself in. And, once I got in the groove and the routine of going to class and homework and stuff like that, it kind of just fell into place. It was nice. It was great meeting all these other students. I'd walk into a classroom and definitely sometimes I was the oldest person in the classroom. And sometimes I wasn't. Sometimes there were people, who were way older. In one of my math classes, there's this guy who was like 65, and he was like, no, I just felt like going back to school.
Good for him. So that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I loved LCC for that wide variety of people that were in school. You had some high schoolers who were in college and, right out of high school and college. And then you had the people who were career changing and just wanted to brush up on their education.
Yeah, I know. That's one reason I love teaching at LCC too, because of the diversity and it's always amazing to me. You take people from all these different backgrounds and all these different ages, and how well everybody works together. It's because you're all there for for your education, and it everybody had something in common. So that was so fun to watch.
Yeah, I really did enjoy LCC for that, and just all these different people in different walks of life. You get the wisdom from some of these people, and you're like, oh, okay, wow, look at them go. Yeah, it is. It's really, really cool. And we see a lot of people like you who come back and are looking for a career change or, whatever this is, or, they've been at home for a while and now ready to go back out into the workplace. So what made you, decide when you were getting ready to graduate? How did you go about deciding what you wanted to do with your insurance degree? Because there's a lot of different options. There is. So I had made the decision a long time ago that I didn't want to be an agent. That just terrified me for some reason. And a lot of the job offers I got right in the beginning were all for agent work. And I just kept pushing through, and I applied, I don't even know how many jobs I applied for, but I finally landed this one at Hanover in the claims department, and I couldn't be happier. It is amazing. I love talking to the insureds. You meet all these people from all over the United States because Hanover is so huge. And I love it. It's great.
Yeah. How was it going back to school with 2 young kids, too? You mentioned you had a preschooler when you started back. How was that? Because not only had you been out of school for a little while, but you're also balancing, your home life with littles. So how was that? What was that like?
It was frustrating in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I would save most of my homework to do at nighttime after the kids had gone to bed. So it was a lot of late nights. Luckily, my kids are fantastic, and my older son, when I started, I think he was in 3rd grade, and he was super responsible, and I'd tell him, nope, I'm going to be reading here for a minute, and they'd pull out their books too, and especially when schools got shut down because of COVID, and I was trying to juggle teaching them all day and my schoolwork, that was tough. There was lots of tears involved at some times,
mm-hmm.
and but we pushed through, and the kids did great. And it just, you make that list of what you need to get done, and you do it.
Do you see, and I know they're still really young, so they may not be able to express, but do you see them, like in how they act or what they say to you now that they've watched you and kind of like shed the tears with you? Have you gone through school and started a new career? Are you seeing anything like that they've said to you, or that they're acting different or anything like that?
Yeah, I think my older one, especially, he's big. He wants to be a zoologist. He's got his career path. I mean, he's in 7th grade right now, and I'm going to go to Michigan State. I want to do this and this. So he's already, thinking about planning his college while he's watched me do schooling. And, we've talked, why don't you go to community college for first 2 years, get those prereqs done, and then transfer over to a 4-year college. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Once I kind of explained the cost of school and stuff, he was like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
That's good that you're having that conversation with him when he's so young and thinking about that. That's so interesting. You say how he's already thinking ahead and like planning his education. And when I went, my son was about, I think he was about 3 or 4 when I started back for my master's degree, and I was a single parent and I was working full time. So then I'm like, let's just add more fuel to the fire and go back for the MBA. And I just remember like partway through, I was talking to one of my school counselors because I was struggling, it was like, this is a lot. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't like you. I could not, like after working all day, I could not go home and do my homework. So I'd get up like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd start writing my papers because at the master's level, especially, there's a lot of writing. Right. And so I'd always get up super early, and I just think, God, I'm not being fair to my son. Like we would literally go to Chuck E. Cheese so I could keep him entertained while I studied. I mean, I studied at Chuck E. Cheese, which people think I'm insane, but it worked for me. And
I used to do the airborne jump, sky jump thing where they would go jump on the trampoline for an hour, and I would sit off in the corner with my headphones and reading while they were just jumping away.
Yes, and when you have boys, I mean, that's what you got to let them do. You got to let them like just work it out. And so I just remember my counselor saying, you know what, he's watching you, even though he's little, and he's paying attention, that you have to work really hard to get what you want. And that always kind of stuck with me. And then, I watched my son kind of go through that same process of realizing, if you have certain goals, you got to work hard for it. And sometimes that means you have to sacrifice. So, so that's very interesting you say that. Now I'm going to bring something else up, and I know you won't bring it up because you're so humble. So, here you come back as a little bit older learner, not right out of high school, and you just really excelled. And you started entering these national white paper contests where you had to write, extensive papers, do a lot of research, and then submit them. So tell me about that and what you wrote about and what the outcome was.
So for the WSIA, the Wholesale and Specialty Insurance Association, also my professor, Mary Stucco, suggested that I should submit a paper. And for the first one, that was fall 2020, I wrote the paper on COVID-19 and how it was affecting workers' compensation and kind of like this massive shift to telecommuting. Right. And, oh, man, I just remember writing that paper and, like, freaking out. Like, it was never going to be good enough. And I just couldn't get my, like, thoughts focused. I spent hours and hours researching, talking to people. panicking, wanted to make sure that I had all the insurance stuff correct. And I submitted my paper and then ended up winning third place. And
That's
I was
awesome.
floored, couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And then in spring 2021, I decided to write the paper again. And luckily, it was a topic that I was interested in because I did have this dental hygiene. Some of the prerequisites for that were like microbiology and some of these more like anatomy classes. And I've always been fascinated with viruses.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the topics for the spring 2021 white paper contest was this COVID-19 and the pandemic and how it's not insurable.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran with that and ended up writing this paper for that one. And I think it was titled Pandemics Insuring the Uninsurable.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed it. And it flowed so wonderfully. Like I didn't struggle with like I did with the first paper. And ended up winning first place in that one. And I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, and keep in mind,
you
were competing against all 4-year schools throughout the country.
Right.
And here you are, you're at a community college, which is an awesome community college, and you're beating all these other schools out. So
yeah, I couldn't even believe it. And then I got called after that. They were like, we want to keep you in the excess and surplus line, which I didn't end up staying in. But, there's always time later.
Yeah.
And, I got people galore calling me about job opportunities and brokerage firms and stuff like that. So it was really the boost of confidence I feel like I needed to kind of just push through those last years of school.
Right. So now you're a recent grad and you're in your career now. Do you have any words of wisdom that you would share with anybody who's listening to this and kind of thinking, boy, I'm thinking about going back to school. Should I do it? Is it worth it? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are do it. It's, one of those things that I struggled with right out of high school. I didn't want to go to college. I kind of forced myself. I actually failed out my first semester right out of high school, and I just gave up. I was like, nope, it's not for me. And then going back and realizing that, I put forth the effort a little bit more. I had grown up a little bit more, and I excelled, and I've met wonderful people. So if you're thinking about going to school, just do it. Even if you fail, you can keep going.
Right. Failure is not the end, is it?
No,
You've proven that.
Failure is just a stepping stone to learn from your mistakes to keep going.
Absolutely. Well, Sara, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great catching up with you and talking. And then this is Mary Stucco with Education Unfiltered. Thank you so much for joining us.